Okay, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We got another great interview ahead of us right now. We got the awesome and amazing Cliff Crawley. How you doing, my friend?
Good, thanks, Striker. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Super excited for our little conversation here. Wanted to start off, big top down picture, just have a little discussion, really about the idea of the metaverse. And right now, obviously, in the news, everything that's been going on, we've been hearing a lot of people discussing their ideas of what the metaverse could be. I'd love to get your feedback as a developer and just an individual in the crypto space, where you think we might be going, what the future might hold, or what things excite you.
I mean, that's a
It's a
pretty
big one.
massive topic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it really depends on who's going to be kind of taking the reins with this going forward. It's if you wanted to talk about metaverse in terms of relating it more to some of the storybooks and other things that have come out, kind of talking about where engines started and stuff and what that started from. It's kind of like a world within, like a virtual world within our world, and then having everything kind of interoperable wasn't really part of that. It was more kind of one person or one company made that universe. It wasn't about a bunch of separate entities like we currently have, all trying to make things and making things interoperable. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's, I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, it's one of the things that like I'm always in the back of my mind trying to have an idea, at least on my end, obviously both as like a player and investor. I'm always trying to like look toward the future and come up with a general idea of what I think could happen. And then as new information comes out, as people, start to see the space play out, obviously adapt it as things progress. Like you were saying right now, the idea of different organizations or different teams working on different projects. I would assume, for the future of the metaverse to succeed at some point in time, different projects will start to collaborate more, whether it's even on a yearly basis, maybe in the distant future, be a daily basis type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think probably we need to get to some kind of agreement on maybe which blockchain to use.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
of all,
Yeah.
for sharing that, because I mean that's kind of the backbone for sharing data. Like it gives you that public record to read from. You don't have to have some company running some server somewhere that everyone taps into to read. Hey, does this player have this item or anything like that?
Sure.
But obviously, with all these separate blockchains and new technology and that kind of thing, it's difficult to pick a winner. When I started Lost Relics 2 years ago, it was just Ethereum. There was a couple of other projects on the horizon, but there was nothing that I could actually go ahead and use. So now there's like a lot of projects and they're all kind of vying for attention and hoping that they'll be the big one and take the lead and that kind of thing. But there's still no clear winner right now. So kind of
Yeah.
just have to hang in there and wait and see where, what the people who are developing those are going to bring.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting when you talk about the idea of time, right? Because I'm listening to a bunch of different conversations with like heads of studios talking about how their competition, like even video game studios competing with ideas like Netflix or Amazon Prime, saying that their biggest competitor is Fortnite. This idea of like where people are putting their time when they're online. Yeah. As you've built out Lost Relics, the just natural gameplay that you've got into, at least at this point in time, is really heavy in terms of investing, in terms of time, grinding out those skill levels. I do think that that's a big benefit that Lost Relics has, over other projects, especially new starting projects. How do you perceive that I guess player progression, the amount of time players put in for like a certain skill or grinding X amount of dungeons? What are your general thoughts about that?
I think, I don't know, it's kind of a complicated
Yeah.
area as well, because there's a whole bunch of things that come into it. Some people have outside lives, like they'll have kids and that kind of thing they have to look after, so they can't spend as much time. And so they'll maybe complain that they can't achieve the level of skills progression that other players who can play 8 to 12 hours a day can do. But I mean, that's life too. Like,
Yeah.
that other person doesn't have kids, and they're not watching them grow up, and they're not having those life experiences or anything like that. So everyone misses out on something. So this mindset that gamers do have, that they're missing out, or that they weren't there for a particular time and now they can't get something, is I don't know, a bit, doesn't really apply. Like, it doesn't apply in the real world, so it doesn't really apply in the virtual world either. You can't just join a game 2 years later and then jump up to where everyone else is. You have to kind of earn it and work at it too.
I'm sure
so I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a hard thing to balance, right?
Yeah, I guess with, at least with when you're playing blockchain games, because you own the items. Like, I feel that this concept that we have in blockchain, where we kind of jumped from item ownership. Like, that was the thing on the horizon, right? Item ownership. You can own the items. You can invest in the game. You might buy some Fortnite skins, but that doesn't matter, because at some later time, maybe in a year, you might decide, you don't want to play that anymore. But you do have these valuable skins that you can then resell to other people who might be interested in having them, right? That was originally the promise of blockchain gaming.
Sure.
We quickly leapfrogged that with Axie Infinity, and I'm pretty sure they've kind of changed the whole item ownership, or anything related to ownership, like, where you're spending your time and you're spending your effort playing a game, and then at a later time you can kind of get back some of that investment of time and whatnot back out of it, by simply focusing on this whole play to earn. So there's no concept now of ownership. No one really cares too much. They're more just, well, how much money can I make per hour?
Sure.
It's like, well, this isn't really a job.
Yeah.
And that's traditionally the definition of a job, is that you get an employment contract and all that kind of thing, and work for pay, and you're paid to do something to give some sort of output for that payment. It seems like we're kind of changing some of that idea and concept around. A lot of people are now expecting to be able to just play a game and get paid, or to just turn up at a room and put their hand out and get some money for nothing. It's kind of an odd, I mean, like, I'm over 40, so it's kind of a weird concept for me to go from earning a living by doing work for someone else to earn my living, to going to this idea that people have, where they just expect to turn up to something and get paid just for turning up. It's kind of a weird concept for me to think about. But I think the issue I find with it, or the thing that I find, where I was saying that we've kind of leapfrogged this whole concept of item ownership, and we've gone to just simply being paid to play, almost, or earning an income from playing a game. I feel like we've kind of missed some of the benefits of it, and we've got this pure focus now on simply spending your time to earn an income, instead of still enjoying your time and playing a game, earning items along the way, with the potential to basically cash out at the end if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, it's kind of, that also affects that whole grinding and leveling thing that you were talking about before, because in traditional games like RuneScape and Diablo, it was no big deal that gamers would spend hundreds of hours leveling up their characters and doing such. But now they're doing that with the thought in their mind that they need to make sure that they're earning a certain income while doing that from the game. So it kind of adds a lot of expectations onto the game as well, in order to give them some kind of income, because that's what's being primarily focused on now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but when, just from going back to my old days in terms of like playing Halo competitively, like, I mean, that was the dream, right? The dream amongst gamers, at least, right? Which is, a different perspective from developers, but they go hand in hand. The dream was, are you able to do the thing that you love and be able to earn or make money from it, right? Back in those days, it was, you'd have to do it through competing. But the thing, when you bring up the idea of Axie Infinity and changing the perception of players. I think it's interesting the way that you describe it, because when we talk about the play to earn model, we have the concept of play and what that means, but the concept of earning, earning can be accomplished multiple ways, right? Like me working as an accountant, like, you can earn through working, like you were discussing. You can also earn, by having other types of passive income. There's the definition of earning, what I see when I see Axie Infinity is one interpretation of the word earn, of the way to bring value. I'm interested in seeing. I know we're going to have a whole bunch of different developers have different perspectives on what earning means to them or could mean to their community. How it all plays out, who knows? But I mean, I think you're right. For me, I tend to always come back and look at the idea of time and investing with. I mean, if time is money, then the amount of hours, there's value inherently there, right? With the amount of hours players put into games, or developers put into actually creating the world. You know what I mean? It's one of the concepts where, when blockchain, or at least when I was seeing blockchain technology originally get implemented, I mean, the three basic things that I was thinking of was, okay, it's going to make it easier for players and developers to be able to buy and sell the items within the game. The turning the black market into a legitimate market. The other items that could be black market items are like gold farming, which I don't know if there's an answer to that yet. But the idea also of like boosting or creating like, different players leveling up a character and selling that character. I'm sure at some point in time we're going to see a world where some type of character progression is tokenized and being allowed to be sold. But it's going to be interesting how all these things play out. Are there any other ideas in terms of, or any other items that you're seeing other developers implement that like pique your interest? Not necessarily like because they're going to be directly related to Lost Relics, but just, someone that's been working the amount of years you have in the space, anything that interests you?
To be honest, I've been kind of focused on Lost Relics. Just kind of not really seeing too much outside of that. I'll have a look whenever I see like new projects and see, check out what they're doing. But as far as I can see, most of them are just all talk at the moment. They're kind of just talking about upcoming products and projects. They'll say stuff in their white papers. It's easy to write stuff down. We'll have to see when they actually release.
Yeah, comes to execution, right? That's the key.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago when I started, this space was totally different. Some of the decisions that I made back then probably wouldn't have made today. Or I might change how I do things. Some of the way I was making the game back then was different too. My ideas for what I wanted and for how it should be played have changed considerably. Mainly a lot of it because of player feedback and the things that people wanted to do. I wasn't originally going to create an MMO style RPG that it's kind of turning into because I was just one person. Back then, my goal was to create like an arcade brawler almost with some, Diablo elements and the item randomness and that kind of thing, but adding value to them. And that was kind of it. But as you know, it's kind of been changing over time.
Sure.
It's kind of a bit of a far distance away now from what that was.
Do you think that is just like inherently part of the process when it comes to the idea of play to earn, right? The idea that players are contributing to, even in the smallest sense, contributing to how a virtual world can develop and or, be funded, or the resources behind the project?
It's probably more about how the project's run, in that it's done in an open style with feedback and constant iteration from the public. Generally when you do it at a game development studio, you create a game design doc and everyone signs off on it, and then you go ahead and start making it. It might change in small amounts. And unless something massively critical comes up, you've got deadlines to stick to. So deadlines plus or the documentation, that kind of thing, kind of keeps you stuck into or confined into a specific thing, so that you can get that out released. And generally, you only get paid when the product is put on the shelves. So probably, yeah, with a more organic development style, yeah, it'll involve kind of like how it has. I guess I just mean like from a more like a vision or where it was going to go, or my planned feature set and that kind of thing. It's morphed quite a lot.
Okay.
And I don't know, like you see some of these projects that are coming out at the moment, it's quite baffling. It's not game related. It's just where the NFT space is kind of taking off. So CryptoPunks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just, people are giving this massive value to unique items, unique things, but they don't have any use. And I guess that's similar in a way to maybe the art space, where you have a painting hanging on your wall that you paid a lot of money for. And you're paying for that artwork, potentially that it's unique or whichever. But I feel that people are maybe overvaluing some of those items because they aren't aware that there are any alternatives.
Sure.
And that they're just heavily speculating because it's something that's new. It happens whenever there's something that's new. People are like, oh, I wonder if I can make a lot of money from this. You hear when there's any kind of money connected to it.
Sure.
Some of them will get lucky and some of them won't.
Sure. I'd always assumed that at least a large majority, and this is just my personal opinion, I'd always assumed that a large majority of those valuations, just derived from the fact that crypto in general has been exploding. Someone that had invested $100, out of the blue a few years ago, all of a sudden now have a few $1,000s, right? And now have, that wealth to spend. But going back to the idea of Lost Relics, and one of the things when it comes to, either valuations or how people respect slash enjoy, these fungible tokens. The thing that's always that piqued my interest from moment one was the idea of, ever since you implemented even the gold economy, right? When you made that major patch back in the middle of 2020, was being able to see how an economy was starting to flow, even at the smallest end, I mean, when I was looking at, the amount of gold that was going around within Talmuth, one day we had a few thousand gold going for pendants, and then all of a sudden it jumps up to 10,000 gold. You start to see the progression, and I compare that to, let's say, Engine X, right? Engine X for Lost Relics before you even implemented the in-game marketplace. You hit 250,000 engine in terms of monthly circulation amongst players. Like, if that's not an economy, I don't know what is. A lot of these NFTs, don't have that type of, those fundamental issues behind them. There's not a hard economy behind some of these NFT projects like there is within Lost Relics or within crypto gaming.
That's true. Actually, you get a lot of the single purchases or high value purchases, but it's not like there's a lot of circulation or anything. So while there's probably just demand from whales, if that's what you want to call them, that it changes hands once or twice, and then that's kind of it, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe again in the future, or maybe some people got it earlier on when it was still an unknown thing. They speculated on it and happened to get some good returns on it. But I don't know, like, who knows where this space is going to go? Like, there's a lot of things coming up. Like, this discussion is going to go all over the place. But I guess there's things like regulation and that kind of thing. I think I saw one of your streams the other day where you touched on, someone mentioned something about, can governments tax virtual items? Like, I think there was something about taxing Mario Kart coins and all that kind of thing. Like, is anything you earn anywhere able to be taxable? And your answer was, well, yes, if they wanted to, they could mandate that would be taxable. Yeah. And that the blockchain space, and having, like, to me, like, it's just a virtual counter. It's, that's all it is. The blockchain is a virtual ledger. and these governments are starting to want a piece of whatever value people have attached to that. And so as that becomes more and more used, eventually we probably will. Like, what? I mean, I've separated in Lost Relics gold coins from blockchain items, because gold coins is just like any other currency that you can get in a game like Mario Kart or whatever.
Sure.
But at what point is that going to get like changed, or the governments go, oh, hang on a minute, the gold coins you earn in Lost Relics, we want to cut that.
Yeah, well, at least in the US.
And does the blockchain propagate that? Like, is it going to make it same? Because it's essentially the same thing. All it is a public version of a private technology.
Yep.
In a way, like it's no different than my bank account. Like my bank account, just they can go and change the ones and zeros or whatever you want to call it, to change the balance. So
yeah, you're exactly right.
Difference.
I mean, I know at least here in the U.S., like and this really started up back from World of Warcraft. I mean, the IRS had to pass regulations on how to tax what they called at that time virtual currency, right? That they've now had to put in definitions that say what they meant by virtual currency back then is not crypto, and then they broke it out. But I've had conversations with a lot of other players and just people investing and that are interested in the space, and I'm trying to tell them that like the regulations are coming. Who knows what those are going to be? But the truth of the matter is, the taxing policies are how governments enforce the will of the public. They can literally create it as they will, and that's why it's such a big deal. I was covering a few weeks ago the legislation package here in the U.S. and I'm not going to lie, it was not good for crypto, and it passed. But it unfortunately was written in a way where it doesn't make any sense for enforcement. So it has to be changed. But changed into what and at what point? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go either. Like it's just in Australia, crypto is just treated as property, which is pretty similar, I think, to the US.
Yeah.
Which is like it's frustrating for me as someone providing a service that you can pay for, because, for example, a really stupid example of that is you go to my shop and you buy a pendant, and let's say you pay me too much, and you're like, oh, well, I sent you too much. Can you refund me that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, on my side, like it's now as a tax event, it's come in, and then it's as though I'm selling that back out again. And so I then have to pay the tax on the amount that I refunded you.
Yep.
Yeah. That becomes a taxable event. And I have to record when, so like someone will pay me in January, and then let's say I haven't refunded and nothing's gone out until December. And when I have to refund you, they then look at the value of my crypto from when I got it in on January and now what it is on December. And so if I refund you $5, the value of that, if it's gone from, let's say, $1 to $1,000 in December, it's now like, oh, you made a capital gain of $995. Like, what?
For a refund.
I just refunded someone $5.
Exactly. It's crazy. This is why the tax laws need to change for crypto. But I mean, I've had the same scenario. It's funny because you're giving the perspective as a developer, right, running the business. But like, I've had that same type of scenario where players within Lost Relics will ask me, "Hey, Striker, can I rent one of the pumpkins that you have? Can I rent a pumpkin?" And I could say, like, we could try to work something out, but I already know by me making the transfer and then at a later point in time being it transferred back, there's going to be these capital gains that just, they don't make sense to I guess honestly to a player, right, that maybe doesn't run a business and may not understand how the current system is operating. But yeah, it is one thing that's holding developers, players, investors back. And hopefully we'll get some clearance on it. But for right now, we just have to take it one step at a time and be as cautious as possible, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in the early days, as soon as you found an item in the dungeon, I'd send it to you. And I didn't I wasn't really well versed in how the tax should work for that. So pretty much any of the money I got in the start, I paid out again. And I think ETH was going up at that stage, so I was probably just I was bleeding money, like just sending items out to everyone. I stopped, and everyone's like, "Why just stop sending items?" And I'm like, "I can't do it anymore. I've lost more money than I've made. I can't do that."
Credit to you through making it through that, and then on top of it, like one with the appreciation of crypto, two running the business, and three figuring out and working with all these regulations, and still being able to provide an economy that's growing every day, so major shout out to you. But I think we've done a good job here of covering a lot of broad topics, and I know whoever's watching the video right now, at least at this point in time right now, August 31st, are really interested in if you're willing to give any information regarding some leaks that might be appearing on your Discord channel. That's been pretty interesting to look through those images.
Who leaked? What the hell? What's been leaking?
Oh, was I not supposed to say that? Oh, my bad. Now you got some.
No, it's fine.
You got some really interesting pictures in there that are getting me extremely excited.
Well, you can perhaps ask some questions, and I'll decide how I answer them on the fly, I guess. So I might accidentally leak something myself.
Fair enough. So starting small, going back. Even going back to the Easter event when you were, or I'm sorry, the patch right after Easter, you were mentioning for a little while, maybe we're going to get one map. There might be one map coming, and then the update comes and boom, I think there was like six different, so I was expecting one production skill, forging. You've talked about forging in the past, but now all of a sudden there's a tanning hide new location on the map. Is there any ideas here of what that could mean, or how that might actually play out, or for players? Is it going to be a production skill? Maybe that's just me making assumptions here.
Yeah, I know in a lot of games, tanning and skinning and all that kind of thing are skills, but it tends to get like pretty involved. They have got like 20 different skills that you can level up in and that kind of thing. RuneScape does that kind of stuff as well. I think WoW has skinning and that kind of thing. This is the first you'll hear about this, I guess, and I've got more details I've already written a Medium article that I keep adding to.
Nice.
So it'll have full details. Normally I'd do a release and I wouldn't really say much and I let everyone figure it out themselves. But these days, there seems to be a lot of people who are too anxious for that or something. I do a new patch and they just freak out and lose their minds and they don't want to discover anything themselves. And I'm like, well, that's a bit unfortunate because that's what I like doing. I like giving things for people to discover. So I'm kind of going halfway, and I'm writing those articles in order to detail some of the stuff, but then there'll be other things that I don't discuss and leave for the other people who like to discover still.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
So, I mean, this one's not like too huge, but there are a couple of things that might be in the leaks that might look like skills, but aren't necessarily skills at this stage. So I guess, tanning is one of those for now.
Okay.
So there's definitely, you've seen the leak photos, there's definitely forging coming. I won't give any details about the items and what's used, because there's certain things that are going to affect the market and market dynamics.
Sure.
And I try to leave all that stuff out until it actually drops, because I find if I give anything around that away now, it tends to have repercussions later on that come back to bite me.
Sure, fair enough.
Or others. So there's definitely forging coming that you know about. And I will say that that's it for the new skills.
Yeah. And I might
for this patch.
I might also be putting in obviously I've seen the pictures that you've posted, so I've had my brain thinking about 100 different things about what they could mean. I'm assuming that the pictures that you posted with the your item may need repair. It sounds like this might be a second shot that you're taking here about using a repair mechanic. I personally,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
personally like the idea. I think it's a good way to might maybe circulate gold in the economy. Is that what we're looking at?
I did hear some speculation around that it might be the ability to repair stuff.
Okay.
Um, I've thought about that. There were several ways that I could tackle
Hmm.
some of the repair stuff. Um, Traditionally, people are used to seeing a progress bar on their item that says how damaged it is, and then they
Hmm.
can choose when to repair it, and it costs different values. Um, or they might decide to sell a three-quarter broken axe on the marketplace to someone else who might be willing to repair it or something like that.
Okay.
Some of the depth on that, I feel, is probably a little bit too deep for the gameplay and style that I was going for. I do still like to lean more on the arcade style, and I know some people love to really get into the depth of details and that kind of thing. But I feel that doing it that way, first of all, I'd have to change some fundamental things because I have to track individual items themselves. So right now, if you have 10 axes on your account, there's no difference between those 10 axes if they're all called the same thing.
Okay.
Like, let's say you have an iron axe, 10 iron axes, I can't tell the
I
difference
see.
between each of those. It's just you have a counter. And so when one of them, let's say you lose one in an invention, now you have 9. That's it. They're not individually accounted for.
Got it.
The reason I did that was because I had a lot of items originally in the early days where I was tracking them individually, and it was overwhelming the services that I was using. I was actually using a third-party service.
Okay.
So when I re-implemented in my own service, I just went back to non-individually identifiable, which matches perfectly with fungible tokens. Non-fungible allows you to tell the difference between individual ones, and fungible, they're all the same. So going with that, I don't have repairable items. One
Okay.
way I could do that is if an item broke while you're on an adventure, it would deduct that you had that item and give you a broken version of that item. And then you could choose to repair that item, or you could sell that broken item. But I don't know, like it just seems like it just flood the market with a bunch of broken items and people can do a bunch of stuff. I might change that in the future, but for now, there's no concept of repairing.
Okay.
And I know you speculated something about maybe there's ability to repair and that'll stimulate the gold market some more and do whatever. That's an option in the future by having this broken state. But for now, no. If you remember back to, I don't know when it was, like 8 months ago or something, when we last had breakable items,
Yeah.
there were some issues with the way that it worked and the way it was tracking them and the way that it happened. So you'd be on your adventure and you would be using your pickaxe and it would just break and that was it. And you couldn't use it anymore. And so people were getting frustrated because you would go on an adventure and you'd probably have to take 2 of them with you, which would take up an inventory slot. And I think back then we only had, was it 4 inventory slots or 16 when I added tools? I think it might have been 16.
Yeah, I think it was 16.
Yeah. So it would take up more slots. And so like if you were running some of the dungeons or some of the adventures with 3 tools, you'd be taking up 3 extra slots
True.
for the extra tools, plus 2 extra slots for the other 2 tools and 1 in your tool inventory, like in your tool slot. So you were like wasting all these slots just in case the weapon might, or the tool might break.
Yeah.
So I've done away with the concept of when it breaks, you've lost it completely. If it breaks, you'll keep it for the remainder of that adventure.
Oh, okay,
and
cool.
then you'll replace it. So there's no repairing, but at least you don't instantly lose it. But at least there is breaking and loss of tools to then help stimulate some of the production market for those again.
Yeah, I mean it's so I'm 0 for 2 on the predictions, but that's okay. I think the big one here, obviously, yeah, I'm sure the one everyone's excited for is what the future of Shadowstones will mean within Lost Relics. I don't know if that's something you want to comment on or talk about, but if not specifically details within the game, maybe just concepts about how you think the in-game market and Engine X, what kind of relationship those two different markets will have with each other, maybe going into the future?
Well, how about you tell me what you think the Shadowstones stuff that I've revealed will entail?
Okay, well, here's
and
the key.
I accidentally, in one of the leaks, I accidentally included some information that I didn't want to at that time, but I realized afterwards.
Okay, well,
so you guys know a little bit more now than what it was supposed to, but anyway.
Fair enough. Okay, my guesses would be, my guesses are that the 3% fee that you implemented for the blockchain marketplace, a portion of that may be able to facilitate the dropping of Shadowstones within adventures. That's a guess that I have. I'm probably also assuming that your probably main focus would be allowing players to withdraw or to move the Shadowstones back into Genge. I'm assuming that's probably one of the key items. And then the third one really is just what the implications could mean if players are able to earn Shadowstones while they're playing the games, whether if it's by killing mobs or by opening chests or by, who knows, maybe completing tasks or completing adventures or bounties or who knows. Those are probably my three interpretations of what that picture showed about the Shadowstones.
That's a pretty good guess, actually.
So did I get one right?
Yeah. So,
1 out of 3.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to reveal.
Fair enough.
At the stage, but I guess you pretty much guessed a lot of the stuff anyway. It definitely is going to push Lost Relics more into, I guess, that play to earn side. Yeah. More so than what it has at the moment, where it's play to earn, but it's more very, very luck based. Mm-hmm. It's still going to be luck based because otherwise, there's just other stuff that comes into it.
Sure.
But basically, yeah, it's kind of like what you suggested. So I will be the trade fee will be revised for the next update.
Okay.
It'll be changed from 3% to 4%.
Okay.
And that 1%, which is 25% of the fees, will be put back into the game. I'll also be doing it so that purchases on the store made with Shadowstones will have a percentage taken and also put back into the game.
Okay, hold on. Could you tell me that one again? A percentage of the store?
On the website right now, you can buy things with Engine, Ethereum, and the fiat stuff is disabled. I haven't leaked that screenshot yet, but I've got a number of...
So you got more screenshots to leak.
Just kidding. I've got a checkout screen instead. Rather than selecting the currency, you now instead go to the checkout screen and you choose essentially your payment provider, right? So you would say, I want to pay with my Engine wallet. So you'd see all the prices in US dollars on the store. You'd then go to checkout and you'd say, I want to pay with my Engine wallet, or I want to pay with provider X, which is listed, or provider Y. And one of those is also going to be Shadowstones.
Awesome.
So it means that any Shadowstones you earn in the game through selling your items, for example, you will be able to use those to buy items in the store. And so a percentage of the Shadowstones that you use to buy will then be put back into the game and dropped in adventures.
That's extremely exciting because, it's one of those things, right? Even if it starts small, it's one of those things that can compound on itself as time progresses, as future updates
basically it's creating a treasury for everyone, so that if people are trading and people are spending money, then people are earning rewards. It has the potential to snowball.
Yeah, that's
a huge way.
And when we talk about the idea of snowballing, right? The key there really comes down to two things. What really interests me in what you just said is that now there may be a way, at least if making purchases on the store, if it now is enabled to use Shadowstones, at least in some function or fashion, then there's a way to do a conversion between Shadowstones, pendants, and gold. And if that's possible, you know, it might be easier for the entire economy to be able to circulate, both virtual and blockchain. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I'm trying to keep the two
separate
markets separate, because if like everyone's like, oh, why can't we take out gold as blockchain, or why can't we pay for why can't we sell items for,
or like Shadowstones straight for gold,
etc., etc. Yeah, because that breaks the markets, the two separate markets, one being virtual, one being blockchain, right? I mean, I've seen your streams and stuff on it where you've discussed this with people asking questions, and you understand it 100%. Because as soon as you do that as well, you just crush that entire market. You know, if you let gold be converted to Shadowstones and that kind of thing. Right now, the only way to get substantial amounts of gold is to buy the pendants and sell them to other players, and that gives huge value to gold. Without that, if you take that away, it's not worth anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's reasons for the separations that people still I don't think understand properly.
Fair enough.
There's a few people like myself that do, but yeah.
I think the other big key, and probably the biggest question of the night, really is just, we were talking about the idea of snowballing. You know, that all comes back to the idea of player activity and how many players could actually be in the game at any one point, given point of time. What ideas do you have, or are you able to share any information about when players that might be on a waiting list, or future players down the road when they see this video might be able to get into the game?
Well, I mean, right now you can, if you want to get in now, you can always buy at least a 7-day pendant. That gives you the early access. The thing about that wait list was I closed the signups, as you know, due to some of the loot getting extremely looted.
Sure.
So there wasn't much left, and I use limited loot, and I get criticized sometimes for that, but at the same time, it also gives immense value to the items. You know, I could have unlimited loot like Diablo, and then what?
Exactly.
Like, which is back to Diablo. So
is there a concern, I guess, just to narrow it down maybe a little bit, if you can, is there a concern with how many players might be able to join at any one particular time, or when it comes to capacity, or anything along those lines?
I'm using a cloud service. When you go to scale things up, things tend to explode. If it's the first time that it reaches those heights, you know, everything will be working fine. You can do tests for hundreds of thousands. And then when it hits 1 million, suddenly there's this new problem.
Exactly.
Suddenly the database can't handle that many connections, and there was no problem before. Or the way that you set up the scaling worked fine up until 900,000. And then after that, there was a problem because of something else falling over. Like, it's a crazy problem. You know, I know people expect to just be able to join something and everything just works all the time. Then they also complain when things don't work, and they don't really think or try and understand how it all works or what's behind or anything like that either. So I just want to make sure, first of all, that stuff can be, you know, I can handle the requests. That's fine at the moment. I generally try and release, you know, when I do an update, I try and make sure that the load eases up over time. So I already have, there's about just over 70,000 accounts that are activated in the game, like people that can play. Of those, I think at the moment there's around 8,000 to 9,000 playing per month. That was up to, I think it was 28,000 over Easter.
I saw 28 at Easter. We almost hit that 30.
Yeah. So, I mean, it shows that there's like a third of the, a little over.
A little under. Yeah.
Of accounts that are still playing from when they signed up, and some of those tend to come back every now and then over time. So 8,000 playing right now, with the potential for up to 70,000 to come back in because they've already got activated accounts. And I just looked at the waiting list this morning, and there's 90,000 accounts waiting for activation. And I'm just like, I can't just turn the switch on and say, yeah, there you go, you got access.
Yeah.
Because all the items, that's 90,000 people. They all play one adventure at the same time, and they're all given one blockchain item. That's 90,000 blockchain items gone in a second. Like, simple math.
I see where you're coming from. I mean, from the player's perspective, I mean, I honestly like the idea of at least having one initial buy-in, right? Because if a player comes in and buys a pendant to be able to get access, like, one, they're supporting the game, they're supporting, development. Two, if they end up selling that, they're continuously helping the players that are already in the game circulate gold. And that can be their one purchase. If they choose never to purchase again, that's fine too. But it continuously sparks activity.
Well, that's exactly right. That's another thing that I don't think some people understand is by having 90,000 freeloaders come in who are just looking at getting an item and then cashing out. All that's really going to do is weight the market in the terms of there's going to be too many sellers, and so it'll be a buyer's market. If there are at least people coming in who are willing to spend something, like it's only a couple of dollars, to be able to gain access, and they can either use it themselves or resell it to them, that stimulates the in-game economy, the gold marketplace, the virtual marketplace. And it also ensures that these people at least are willing to spend something on items or access or something like that, and they're probably more inclined. That whole marketing thing about it's such a high hurdle to get past the first sale, and once people have made a first purchase, then they're much more inclined to do it again.
Yeah.
It's not only for my benefit, it's also for all the players' benefits.
Exactly.
Because if there are players coming in who are willing to spend, then they're probably going to buy blockchain items or gold items or whatever from people. Because at least they understand that and they're willing to spend. Whereas, I don't know, just adding heaps of free players right now in order to empty the loot tables, it's not really going to benefit anyone. And there'll just be 90,000 unhappy people because they can't sell their items.
Sure. I mean, I'm right there with you, and I think it makes complete sense. Cliff, hey, thank you, my friend, so much for being able to come on board and speak with me. I think we had a great talk. I'm excited for hopefully future discussions too. Any other last little item, you wanted to go over? I know you mentioned
sure.
there might be a Medium post coming out in the near future.
Yeah, so I'll probably do that. I've been trying to not talk about dates.
Sure.
Because generally people seem to freak out when that date passes. Whether it only is a day or two later or a week or two later or something like that. It just adds too much anxiety and other stuff to it, and ends up creating too much noise in the channels or anything. So I try not to mention when. My goal was to release that Medium article before I do the patch, so that people have something to go over, and you can discuss and talk about it. I just have to be careful when there's sensitive stuff in there.
Sure.
Like where I was talking about where, some items might be getting changed to other items or requirements and other things are changing. If I announce an article or release an article with that and it's not already been updated, that potentially causes issues.
Yeah.
So I would like to release, I was going to release it actually a little while ago, but there's the worry of all that stuff happening.
Fair enough. I mean,
what I will say is I do plan to do the actual patch this month.
Awesome.
So
and Cliff,
I'll go that far.
I'm right there with you, man. When I'm doing work too at the office, I do my best to not set end dates as well, because the added pressure and then the anxiety of missing a date for whatever reason, even if it's legitimate, is just, it's not worth it. So I know where you're coming from, and I got your back, my friend.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Beyond that's right. Beyond that, I think I'm just looking forward to releasing this next update because I know everyone's like, oh, why is there no updates? Is the project dead or something like that? I'm like, since when does a project go dead when it's quiet for a while? It means people are busy working on it, especially when they tell you they're busy working on it.
I think it's funny.
So it's going to be like another epic update, and I think it's going to blow everyone's minds.
Would it be safe to say that it might compare with when you originally entered free to play in 2020, when you made that big change where now all of a sudden rather than using adventure stones, it was being able to grind out dungeons and XP progression type of update?
Yeah, probably that, along with was it the Easter update?
Yeah.
With all the the skills update. I don't know. Like, there's so much rolled into one. There's stuff that I haven't leaked yet. There's smaller changes that impact larger things. And I think even just discussing a little bit about the Shadowstones and how that's going to work should have a massive impact on how rewarded people feel. I know that they have been feeling less rewarded lately for playing, and partly that is because of the massive influx of players. There's, if you look at Overseer, you'll see how many items are going out all the time. It's unsustainable to be able to give everyone an item every second. It costs so much ETH to create the items in the first place. I have to back them with the value and stuff. The interesting thing for me is going to be where we're going to go in the future, with Efinity on the horizon.
Yeah.
So I've just been doing some planning work for that.
Yeah, and I've been watching every single video that Engine's been putting out too, doing some planning on my own end there as well. So fingers crossed things go well, and looking forward to a bright future.
Definitely. Awesome. Thanks very much for the interview, Striker.
Thank you, my friend. You take care, okay?
Cheers. I'll catch you next time.
See you in Talmuth.